Voila. You did understand before. Well, once more, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being present at that press conference. It is an opportunity for me to make some comments to you after almost 6 months of chairing the OSCE. It's already half time, if we can choose a word like in football during this World Championship time. But it was a very, very challenging half time. If we go back to 6 months ago, to the start of the match, January 16, it was here also in Vienna, and I spoke to the Permanent Council for the first time as chairperson in office, and my first question was, why is this Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe relevant today? Why does it exist? And 6 months later, nobody asks this question anymore. The answer seems obvious to everybody because of this very difficult Ukraine crisis. We cannot take for granted, we cannot take peace and security in Europe for granted, and therefore there is no question anymore of the relevance of an organization for security and cooperation in Europe. We have to engage permanently, we have to engage in a joint effort, we have to engage to prevent crises, we have to engage to deal with crises, and that means once more that this Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe has a very good name. It's exactly that, Security and Cooperation in Europe. Good name, but also this OSCE, this organization, is more needed than ever. And therefore also we should, there is a great responsibility, if I can take it like that, for all member states, because we should empower this organization. We should empower the organization further to strengthen the European security. That is my main message today. We should do that. All member states should do that. And that is really an international responsibility in front of the people of our states. As for Ukraine, first of all, the establishment of the special monitoring mission shows the comparative advantage of the organization, which is the fact that it is a working and impartial platform for dialogue. The SMM, the Special Monitoring Mission, was created by a consensus of 57 participating states, a sort of common ground, even in such difficult circumstances where it is very, very difficult to get a consensus, a compromise spirit. What is true that this consensus is not granted either. Let's remind of 2008, for instance, the Georgian case. At that time, it has not been possible to get a consensus, to get a compromise. And this strength of the organization of being able to build bridges and compromise is also a weakness, because if we don't get the compromise, if it's not possible, then there is no possible either to deliver on the ground afterwards. Then, conclusion on that point, it is about political will. If there is a political will in the 57 member states, then we can really do a lot. OSCE is a dialogue platform, and also OSCE is really an impartial organization that can deliver on the ground. When I traveled for the OSCE, I often say that this year I feel sort of double impartiality, because Switzerland is used to be impartial, but with this OSCE chairing, covering the presidency of Switzerland in such traveling around the European continent and the other countries of this OSCE area, I feel really a double impartiality. There are examples for this impartiality and delivering on the ground with SMM. Once more, the SMM is very important because it provides with verified and impartial information from the field. It generates transparency, it facilitates dialogue on the ground. There are other useful tasks that you know, above all this observation of early presidential elections on May 25th. It was really very difficult, very difficult, but very important as well. And also the support of the national dialogue, or the dialogue on national unity in Ukraine. I had President Poroshenko on the phone last Saturday evening, and I told him that we are ready to continue our assistance to Ukraine. We are also ready to help implement the peace plan to the extent possible, and depending also on serial modalities regarding security, of course. And the chairmanship in office, the Swiss chairmanship in office, will continue to have contacts and to be in dialogue with all sides. Today there will be a bilateral meeting with Foreign Minister Klimkin of Ukraine. There will be also bilateral with President Putin of Russian Federation. And there will be as well, in some minutes, bilateral meeting with President of Austria, President Fischer, and also a bilateral meeting with Serbian Minister Dačić. I'd like to welcome very strongly, but at the same time quite cautiously, because it is really a fragile situation for the time being. I'd like to welcome the last event, the event of yesterday, the development of yesterday evening, above all, the work, which is a very good one, of the tripartite group with a representative of Ukraine, a representative of the Russian Federation, and a representative of the OSCE, and the decision of separatist leader to observe a ceasefire too. We are ready to monitor the ceasefire, once more to the extent possible and depending on the series of modalities to be discussed, but we are ready to play a role to monitor the ceasefire, and we call upon all sides to exercise utmost restraint, not only this week. And I would like to underline that point, because only some days, it's quite short, a very short period of time, and we'll have to, we all parts have to find a way to have not only a ceasefire for some days, but ceasing of the hostilities for more than 5 days, in order to allow the start of a real dialogue, and that would be the key. Regarding the missing SMM teams, ladies and gentlemen, I refer to the 4 monitors of the Donetsk team and the other 4 monitors of the Luhansk team of our special monitoring mission who are still missing. The SMM could establish direct contact with them last week. We hear that they are unharmed, but they are still not free. And it's a month now that they are hostage. Their detention is unacceptable and illegal. This monitor went to Ukraine really to help and to be a part of the international presence, once more an impartial international presence. Getting them home safely is a top priority for the mission. It's very natural, but also for the Swiss chair and for the whole Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe. And I call again through your medias once more for the immediate and unconditional release. Now, coming back to my speech this morning and to my main message, something which is not on the short term but on the middle and long term, European security is a common project to be reconsolidated, and therefore we really need a cooperative security. This Ukraine crisis, it did not come out of the blue. It was preceded by a crisis of European security. Against the background, we have to engage in a dialogue regarding aspects on which we disagree, There must be dialogue where we disagree, but there must be also a cooperation on things on which we do agree, still do agree, despite our disagreement on Ukraine. And the more we empower this organization with its name, Security and Cooperation in Europe, the more we empower this platform of the Organization and Security in Europe, the better it will be able to help us provide security. It's a toolbox, really, for helping the member states, if they have the political will, to provide security and maybe to redesign the security architecture of tomorrow. One clear priority, not taking more of them, only one clear priority. And after 6 months, I come really to that conclusion. That organization must be able to act very swiftly and very effectively in the frame of all which is mediation. So mediation aspect in the whole conflict cycle must be a clear priority for this organization. If we decide to do something, to deal with a crisis, to prevent, if it is possible, then we have to develop and to deliver on the ground swiftly with all the mediation capacities. We have made some progress this year. It was one priority in the tableau of the Swiss chair before coming effective to that year 2014. It was one priority, but I can say now that it's really maybe the first one. And this priority was accompanied by some progress in building up OSCE mediation, already practically used in Ukraine, for instance, in supporting the work of Ambassador Ischinger, who was himself supporting the national dialogue. But we remain committed to contribute further to the build of these OSCE mediation skills, and this will be a priority for Switzerland beyond the chairmanship. I would like to be clear on that point. I think the continuity of security is very important, and there is not only 1 year priority because we are chair. It is a priority that has to be a long-lasting one. Finally, I'd like to speak briefly about the goals of the Swiss chairmanship, because we speak a lot of the Ukrainian crisis, but we have to remember that we had a famous tableau with 10 priorities for this chairmanship 2014 of the Swiss Confederation. And we haven't neglected these other tasks and priorities. I visited the Western Balkans to foster OSCE assistance in promoting regional reconciliation and cooperation. It was our first priority in this tableau. I recently traveled to the South Caucasus to encourage intensified negotiation on Nagorno-Karabakh and discuss also OSCE engagement in Georgia. We organized major conferences and events on our priority subject, have been raising awareness and putting them on the agenda of the OSCE, as for example, a no-ransom policy, as an indispensable measure for hindering the financing of terrorism, the necessity for enhanced preparedness in natural disaster management, the importance of the protection of human rights defenders, and for the more efficient and OSCE-wide implementation of human rights commitment, and also the fact that the youth should have its voice in the OSCE, particularly with the so-called OSCE model, which is working quite well, and we'll see the result at the end of the year. But I'm sure also that this OSCE model, and above all this voice of the youth within the OSCE, will be also a long-lasting project. It is at least my wish, and not only something for this year of Swiss chairmanship. Well, and that will be my conclusion in one sentence. Chairing this organization is not really a pleasant trip, a long time and in a lot of countries, but it is a very demanding task, but also a very stunning one if it can help for peace and for the people. Thank you very much for your attention, and I am available for questions in English or in French or in German, but not in the 57 languages of this organization. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Bernhard Odichnal from Tagesanzeiger Zürich. Sir, could you tell us what you want to discuss with President Putin tonight? And will there be the issue of the hostages, the OSCE hostages among the topics?
Yeah. President Putin, like I do as well as chairperson in office, we support the peace plan. We have said it officially, publicly, and now it's about not only saying it, but finding the way to be a part of a solution. The OSCE can be part of the solution, and I've told it beforehand, with the toolbox, with the way we can support implementation of the peace plan, or part of implementation of the peace plan, above all in monitoring the ceasefire, for instance. But that means also that we have to get a support, which is a practical one, from the Russian Federation. And the Russian Federation can be a part of the solution, and that will be the main aspect we want to discuss today. I hope it will be possible to progress in that regard. About your second question, it is linked. If we want to really progress on the field in the eastern part of Ukraine, that means also that we have to solve the question of the monitors that are who are detained in that region, and we will have once more a discussion about how it could be possible for the Russian Federation to help to that objective. Yes? The OSCE has a very clear position about the situation of Crimea, what happens, and the links with the problematics and troubles that makes for international law, and that is not new, and we have discussed that already. What is very important today in the short term is really these 5 days or 4 days that are remaining for this week of ceasefire. And once more, if we want to have only 5 days, then we don't have to discuss about that. If we want to have more than 5 days, then we have to find solution for every part of the actors, of the main actors, to belong to the solutions once more. Yes? I could be, but I would like to speak with Mr. Putin first of all, but maybe I can. No, it's also a problem if you speak about a meeting you don't have had till now, but I have the meeting this evening, and I will speak very practically. For instance, it's very important to have solution for the control of the borders. Another instance is also this monitoring of the ceasefire. That means that Russian persons are very important for that too, in the context and the environment we know actually currently in that region. And there are another series of other points. We have mentioned before the issue of hostages. It is clear that direct intervention on the side of the hostage taker would be really useful. And that these are very practical and concrete issues, I think. But once more, I didn't have the meeting, and I can give you the result before having the meeting. Thank you for your comprehension on that point. Yes?
This is Albert Otti, DPA, German Press Agency. About the missing monitors, is it conceivable that you would send monitors to monitor the ceasefire while your two teams are still missing? Or are you basically saying these have to be released first and then we would consider sending monitors?
I understand your question very well because I asked me the same. It is a difficult answer. First of all, we have to put the priorities. We have two priorities. We want to have them released unconditionally and immediately. It's not the case for the time being. We did not succeed in that matter. But we want as well, at the same time, we want to fulfill the mission we have, the task we have. And the task we have is a special monitoring mission with a mandate that have been given by the 57 member states, and there is a clear priority for going on. Then we have to succeed in the two of them. And for doing that, I don't think we have to link and to make a condition from one to the other, but we have to get little by little the modalities cleared. Above all, the modalities in the security matters. If we don't have a clear situation about security of the mission, it won't be possible to do it. And then we won't have the mandate totally fulfilled, at least in that region, and we won't have any more chance to get the monitors released. Then it is a process which is going on both tracks, and I hope we can really. It's not only a hope; it's a goal that we can progress on both of them, on the monitoring of the ceasefire and at the same time the releasing of the monitors. I would like to add that the releasing of the monitors belongs to the peace plan, and not only of the SMM monitors, the releasing of the hostages. There are not only SMM monitors as hostages in this part of the region of Ukraine. Are there any other questions? Yes?
I'm Mike Shields from the Reuters news agency. I know last week the OSCE said it had reestablished contact with the missing teams in eastern Ukraine, but have you received any more information from the people holding them, or are you in touch with them now as to how to actually get them freed?
Yes, I have some more information, but I can't give it to you for the time being. But we don't have a lot. We have contact, we have had contact, we have had direct contact with the monitors, with one of them of the group of 4 of Luhansk, of Donetsk, and there was also other contacts with emails beforehand. We have also had contact with the person that we are believing they are the hostage takers, and we know some things, but we don't have a regular contact, and we don't have the possibility to build a strong relation with the hostage takers as well, which would be good for finding together a solution. It is a difficult case. There was a last question in that, or another question in that place, yeah?
Maybe you could say a few words about the military dimension of the new city, because experts sometimes mention this dimension, so maybe you could say a few words about
Military dimension in Ukraine, you mean?
Yeah. Because sometimes the experts mention this military dimension to the city.
Really don't understand your question exactly.
Maybe you can explain that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Vienna document.
Ah, the Vienna document. That's what you mean, the military observers. Okay. The Vienna document, which is one of the documents we would like to review during our chairmanship, it won't be possible because of this Ukraine crisis. But the Vienna document is a document that allows one member of the organization to request the coming of a military observer coming from other member states in order to observe military things, military capacities and so on. And that is not a decision which is taken here in the heart of the OSCE, because it's not a consensus decision. It is a right of OSCE members to do that with other OSCE members directly. That means, for instance, that if there is a military observation mission based on the Vienna document, there should be a bilateral agreement, in that case, for instance, between Ukraine and other countries. As there was other hostages in that case, there were hostages 1 month ago, or more than 1 month ago. There were military observers, and there was a bilateral agreement between Ukraine and, for instance, Germany. But there is not a decision of the chair, and it is not also a decision of the OSCE member states, 57 here in Vienna. Did I answer your question? Oh, thank you.
Excuse me, I just want to clarify one little aspect. I'm from the Spanish news agency EFE. You just said you talked with one of the observers in Donetsk. Have you also contacted the other group in Lugansk?
Yet we had a contact with one
Of each?
monitor of one group, and with the other we had contact by email.
Email?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
One was by phone and one by email.
Okay.
In one case of one group of 4, it was a telephone call,
Okay.
a phone call, and in the other group it is already for a long time by email.
Thank you.
Yes?
That's very interesting again. In the report coming from Russia, there's a way to monitor the ceasefire. There was a report that the Russia would also be there together with the OSCE as a ceasefire monitoring team. Now, I'm sure that the modality is being discussed right now, but is there such idea of OSCE team and team from Russia to jointly monitoring the ceasefire? And my second question to that is, what is your thought of this joint monitoring team, if that is to be realized? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your question. You ask every question I ask myself. It was an idea that came yesterday during this discussion, which was quite difficult in the eastern part of Ukraine between tripartite group and separatist leader. At the end, it was decided to observe the ceasefire too, and at the same time it was discussed as a principle for having a ceasefire monitoring under the OSCE responsibility. And we are open to do that, but we have to discuss the modalities. In the frame of the special monitoring mission, there are already Russian monitors. We have 11 Russian monitors in the special monitoring mission. Russia is also supporting financially, like almost 40 countries, or more than 40 countries, this monitoring mission. The fact is that we should need more person coming from Russia, and the discussion will be also maybe today, I hope so, for finding the best way to do that. But it must be an OSCE observation mission, and not a sort of OSCE and other observation mission, because it must be clear who is observing and which rules of engagement and also of impartiality this observation will take place. But that is a point which is not clear. There was a launch of a peace plan on Saturday, and there are a peace plan with 1 week life, and there was a meeting, very important but very difficult, as I already said, yesterday evening, and then we are trying to implement with a lot of actors. Therefore, we will be informing if there are developments, but there will be development. The situation is very fragile, very labile. We cannot say today what will be exactly tonight, and therefore I tell you what I know for the time being. But my idea would be to have the modalities and the security conditions cleared, and then to use all positive aspects and tools for observing the ceasefire. But If it will be possible in the next days, I'm not sure. Therefore, I would also, and maybe I end with this remark, I would also welcome the possibility of having the launch of a midterm process, not only 1 week of ceasefire, but a sort of start of discussion, dialogue at the end of this first week, and at the same time ceasing of the hostilities for more than some days. Well, thank you very much. Yes, I must go, I know. Yes, thank you very much and have a good day.